Ranak everybody, we continue talking about Ansys, and today we continue a course review of Ansys Workbench CAD capabilities. Today we on work with General CAD. We already talked about importing. We talk about Ansys Discovery, about Ansys Design Modeler, about some technical questions, about the general question, and today we talk about some technical questions about direct integration with General CAD. We talk about integration with CAD on Ansys Workbench introduction. It was a long time ago, and I will add a link to this video if you want. Please write a comment and I will send a link. But today we talk not about main principles of integration, but about some technical questions and issues. So you can work with CAD from any type of object which have geometry stage, and you can do it directly from your CAD system. For example, on Autodesk Fusion, we see tab for Ansys here, and we see icon for button to start Ansys Workbench, icon to create a naming selection, and some help buttons. The same way for other product, for example, on Space Claim we see for Workbench, for Mechanical, for Fluent, and some other buttons. For Siemens NX we can start Workbench or Discovery, and we have named selection buttons. So it has some difference in different CADs, but the main tools are identical. To configure your integration with CAD, there are CAD Configuration Manager. You will see this manager during installation of Ansys, but it's not very important if you are not configure this one during installation, because you can start it separately in any time you want. So what do you need to start this integration? You need to press start button, you need to type CAD, and this is CAD Configuration Manager. But if you simple click one, it will start and it will have the same warning: user is not an administrator. So if you do some configuration, it can be not applied in right way. You need to close this one. You need to close all CAD you want to integrate. You need to press start button. You need to type CAD, then press right mouse button and start from administrator name. Sorry for black screen. It's do you really want to start this as administrator? Okay, you see that we doesn't have warning here, so we can configure. We select CAD which we want to configure. We select one of these preferences, and what type of software we can configure. We can configure a software from Autodesk company. It's an AutoCAD, Autodesk Fusion, Autodesk Inventor. We can configure a software from Dassault system. It's a CATIA version 4, version 5, version 6. And we can configure the Dassault system Solidworks. Also we can create an associative link with PTC products such as Creo, Elements Direct, and Creo Parametric. And we can do some integration with Siemens product. It's Siemens NX, Siemens SolidEdge. In some cases, we can say that JT is also Siemens. JT is natural file format, but it's very similar to Parasolid, and the author is Siemens for this standard, so we can say that it's a Siemens. And space claim it's from Ansys company, so it's another things. And you can see that some products have associative interface, and some products have only reader or doesn't have any options. Why it's so? For example, CATIA version 4, it's very old software. You can't, as I know, you can't run CATIA version 4 on a PC, on a Linux, on a Windows. So you can have only a file from CATIA version 4, and in reasons that you can't install this soft into your computer, you can't have integration with it. Creo Elements Direct. It's a direct editing software. So there's only one version. It's reader. It's not matter does you have reader or associative interface. Fusion 360 and PTC Onshape. PTC Onshape doesn't present here. It's a cloud software, so it has some difficulties to integration. So it have simple way by this one, but it only integrate with Fusion. You doesn't have reader. You must have Fusion to integrate Ansys Workbench with Fusion. For CATIA, you have not only reader, but different type of integration depending on your license. And depending on your license and depending on your version of integration, you will have different possibilities to CATIA v5. Okay, what's difference between associative interface and reader? In most cases, this one, Workbench Associative Interface, it's a more powerful way to integrate with your CAD system. But reader and interface have their own benefits and their own problem. So it's very difficult to say that one is the best. For example, all this associative interface needs to have on your computer this software. You can't configure interface if you doesn't have Solidworks. If you say associative interface and you will not have Solidworks or SolidEdge or whatever software you configure, you will not able to open model and files at all. If you have associative interface, you can open model directly from your CAD system. You will have number of buttons and panel of and number of panel in your CAD system, and you can open directly from your CAD. It doesn't mean that you doesn't have needs in conversion of this file. Ansys with your CAD will do it by themselves, but it will be it will present those recalculation export imports in some internal formats. But you will not see this process. You will obtain result without any welding joints. And when you have integration, you will have possibilities not only to obtain geometry, but also you can obtain parameters from your CAD, named selection from your CAD. It's very important and it's very cool. Things we will talk about it today. You can obtain sometimes coordinate systems and some other things. You can open help and see for different software all benefits, all possibilities, and all limits. But you can open with this associative interface version which the same with your CAD system. If you will try to open more new version, you will obtain error. If you will try to open older version, sometimes it will do very quickly. Sometimes you will have some errors. So it's better to open your geometry by your hand in your CAD system, save it, and then open with Ansys. And if you have a reader interface, you can obtain parameters. In most cases, you can't obtain named selection and many other things, but you don't need to install software, CAD software on your computer. You don't need to have license to this CAD software, so you can do some economy in space on hard disk and on your money. And you can open by reader, and you can open any version of your software, of your model from different software. Yep, sometimes it can also be a problem. For example, if you have old version of Ansys and you try to open new version of Solidworks or NX file, you will have problem. If you try to open with the last version of Ansys, last version of CAD model, for example, now we have Ansys 2022 R2 release, and we can have some problem with Inventor 1993, which was released 2 months earlier. We will not have problem with SolidWorks 2023, which released more than half years ago. But if we have, for example, Ansys 2022 R1, which was released in January of this year, we can have some problem with SolidWorks 2023, which released in October. So it needs almost half year in most cases to have possibilities to open the last CAD release, files from last CAD release. But in most cases, you will open any geometry. So, for example, I have SolidWorks 2020 and I have configure integration with SolidWorks for showing some things that I do during this video. And if I'll try to open model from SolidWorks 2021 or 2022 or even the last 2023, I will not have this possibility. Okay, to open SolidWorks model from SolidWorks 2021, I need to open this CAD configuration. I need to select this one, change to reader, reconfigure, and then I will have possibilities to open. For some software, for CATIA, for Creo Parametric, and for NX, you have additional tab here when you must set path for folder with some object for better integration. And in the end, you came to this CAD configuration tab, and you can unconfigure those interface or configure. And when you press here, you will see information about process here. If you doesn't have any problem, you will have configuration and you will get possibilities to work. Okay, I have SolidWorks 2020 and I have configuration with. I link my SolidWorks to Ansys. I create a new geometry, and in some reason I really don't know, I can't find Ansys toolbar, not here and not here. I can't find, but it's present on the tools Ansys product. If it's not present here, you must check add-ins and check do it run on your computer or not. Okay, so let's do some geometry object, and I draw two simple object. It will be analogical but not the same. It's not very important. I draw axis for revolving, and I use revolve to create 170 degrees. Sorry, 170 degrees. Something like that. Maybe even 150 for better viewing. Okay, we have this geometry, and we can send it to Ansys with Ansys Workbench. But now we will have a problem. The reason of this problem is very simple. We don't save our model. And Ansys can't get your model if it's not saved. If it's already saved in any places, in any changes, Ansys will save it and open. But if you not save your model in general, you will obtain a problem. Yep, this is our problem. And if we choose this object, we doesn't see link to our model here. And even if we open our SolidWorks, press save and say, please update. Something like that. You will not obtain anything in any updating. So you need to close this one, don't save. Save this object, we already saved it, and start Ansys Workbench. And now you will have a geometry. Okay, yep, we have a geometry. And if we select this object, we will see name of CAD plugin, name of geometry file. Hooray! Let's add some static structural to this geometry. Let's open our model and take a look on some things. And we'll see our geometry, and it came, and it's very cool. 3, 2, 1, 0. Yeah, this is our geometry. But I talk about name and selection, and I don't explain what it is. I explained it in the first video where I show integration between Siemens NX and Solidworks. Between Siemens NX and Ansys. But let's show it here. So let's create some name and selection, and you will understand what is it. Name and selection manager. We will select those face and create Ansys fix, for example, for fixation. Select this one, create Ansys force for creating force. We will create name and selection only on this part, not on this. We close this one and we have name and selection. We can see it only if we start this name and selection. But we can create it here in CAD system. Let's update our geometry. We update and nothing happened. Really nothing. Nothing changed. Why? If we open Workbench, if we open our geometry, we see a lot of different options for what type of information we import from our model. And name and selection are deselected. So change it. This is name of name and selection, which you prefer to import. This is name of parameters, because if you don't create this prefix, Ansys will import all parameters from your model, and sometimes it can be very difficult to work with those number of parameters, because it will be all parameters from all sketches, from all features, from all sub-assemblies from all parts. So you need to add this prefix to your parameter which you want to import. We add name and selection here. We import our geometry update and look here. Bingo! Name and selection appear. NS fix, NS force. And we can use those name and selection. Why it's called name and selection? Because it's selection and it have name. And it can have not only one surface, it can have a lot of different surfaces, edges and so on. But name and selection, and we can use it for creating boundary conditions. Select environments, select fixation, and first fixation we do in direct way. We select this geometry and select apply. We select this one and select force and type minus 1000 newtons, and it create normal to this geometry. Okay, it's a direct way, it's a simple way. And we can create it in another way. We can create fixation and change here type of object from geometry selection to name and selection. And change here the type of fixation, for example, to NS fix. And we obtain fixation. Okay, and we can create force in this way, but we do it with some changes in the process. We will not click here and select something here. We will double click here and change geometry to next one, geometry to name and selection. We double click here and it create name and selection here. Okay, and we type minus 1000 and we obtain the same result. And if we do some changes in our geometry, for example, name and selection, NS fix, I don't know how it really work. We can delete this name and redo. Okay, we will do it later. Replace, sorry. And select. Okay, just a moment. Select this one and select this one. Yep. With replace, we change our type of fixation, and let's select 3 different faces to explain that we can do this. Replace. Okay, and we obtain update our geometry. Obtain geometry from CAD. And we see that our name and selection also changed. So it's very important and it's very cool. Let's return and sorry, NS force select. Okay, NS fix. So we replace with this one. And now we update our geometry for a better way. Okay, solid. It will have some differences in deformation and stresses in reasons that we have not fully equal geometry, not fully same. but it's not very important because we will show in this way very different things. So we have a calculation. Okay, let's do some changes. We have 150 degrees. Let's say 180 degrees. Update. Solve. And it will be no problem for our geometry. We obtain the same result because we have to this name selection, and we haven't problem with this one. There are some problem because these force are not normal to these faces, but it applied to the same faces that we want. Let's do another change. We change our degree to 210 degree, for example. It's no matter. And we also will not have a problem. So why we show that? On a previous version of Ansys and previous version of integration between SolidWorks and Ansys, you sometimes will have problem with those objects in reason that some faces change their name, change their ID. And you obtain different results. With name selection, you obtain good result. With direct selection, you will obtain different result because this face can be found here, or even not found. Now it's work in a proper way. Only problem with direction of forces, but it's not always. There are one situation when you have a problem. Not with all angle of revolving, but with some. Let's do some changes. We select those sketch, and we say that those lines, those 3 lines, are collinear. Sorry, something I do not in proper way. Oh, I see. It tried to do collinear for full square. Okay, and now we have this one, geometry. Let's update our geometry. Update geometry from source. And there are no problem. There are no problem with this geometry. Not for named selection, not for direct creation. We change those digits from 210 to 160, for example. And we also will not have a problem. Just a moment. I will show it. We also doesn't have any problem because we have two separate faces with degrees of revolving from 0 to 180, sorry, and from 180 to 360 to full circle. But on 360 on full circle and on 180 on half circle, with those geometry, you will have a problem. And the reason of this problem, we have a problem. We have force, but we doesn't have fixation for today. If we select different faces, we can have problem not with forces, but with fixation. So, why we obtain a problem? Because if you take a look into named selection of force and fixation, you will see that it's the same face. It's full face. It's one face. And it's one face here. And it's one face here. That's why we have a problem. And named selection created here in Solidworks. Remember that it's two different faces and select have two named selection. So it came to Ansys both with the same face. But this one, remember only number of this face. Remember these things. And it's not find this number on this model, and we have a problem. Okay, let's do some changes. Let's return to 150. Okay, we have two different surfaces, and if we use named selection, we can see that we have here different faces. Okay, that's good. Let's update this geometry. We update this geometry, and we will not have problem with named selection, but we have problem with this object because it's lose our number. So be careful and control what you are doing. You can obtain those problems not only for revolving, but for revolving you can obtain in very simple way. And for some previous version of Ansys, you can obtain it's not only with 180 degree, not only on half circle, but when you change from less half circle to more half circle, or else if you change from more than half circle to less than half circle, you can change the number of those faces and you can have a problem in Ansys with those geometry. But okay, we have problem with fixation. Not a problem, we can solve it. But we have problem with this one, because for this variance it's not a problem. But if we create, for example, 90 degrees and we need have a force which are normal to our surface, we will see that we have not normal situation with the force. To solve this situation, we can use a coordinate system in Solidworks. You need to know how coordinate system working, not only in Solidworks, in your CAD system. But if you create coordinate system, for example, we use point origin to create those geometry. Just a moment, I don't remember which face I need. Tools, Ansys, name it selection, force, select. Okay. So if we create coordinate system in this origin and we do it, for example, normal to this face, and here in Workbench we select import coordinate systems and do our updating, we obtain additional coordinate system from our geometry. This is one, part 4 coordinate system, and we see how it looks. And we can change type of this force from component, from vector to component, change coordinate system from global to our coordinate system from CAD, and say minus 1000, for example. And now, if we do some changes in our geometry, I don't know, 100 and 200, for example, degrees, update this geometry, and let's take a look. This force are normal to our surface, and this force are not normal because we don't change it. So coordinate system can be very useful things, like different other options, but you must create careful coordinate system in your CAD system, because sometimes it depends from object you are select, from direction of this object, and during your modification of geometry it change some directions and so on. You can see this direction here in CAD. You can see it here in Ansys, but it's not very good solution. So please use object that will not affect your idea. For example, face for solid geometry always have normal inside of your solid geometry. Direction, it's a normal. So you can do some changes and obtain some results that you want. That's what I want to show about technical aspects of integration with CAD system. Hope it will be useful for you. You can write a question or ask to show some possibilities that you want to see. And see you later. Hope.